we've been talking as if charter schools outperform traditional public schools, but the Georgia Department of Education came out with a report stating that charter schools perform no better than the traditional public schools. Can you address that?
I will, but the premise of that question is that somehow that the government is a better predictor or a better assessor of what's good for individual children than the actual parents. Because I operate on the notion that a parent knows what's better for their individual child than the government. And I hope everyone would agree with that. So if a parent chooses school A over school B, I don't care if the government says school A is better than school B. I'm going to trust that the parent made the right decision for their individual child. I want to get to the test scores in a minute, but this really goes to the heart of school choice, because we will hear this argument time and time again. What they'll say is, well, we have good schools, so we don't need this. Number one, if you truly believe that, then why are you worried about it? Because no one will leave your school, right? So I mean, if you have really good schools, you can put 29 charters around your really good school, and no one will leave your really good school. So if you actually believe that, you shouldn't worry about this. But the second thing is, let's take Cartersville High School, which is a pretty good school, has decent test scores. I can go to Cartersville High School right now today and find you 100 kids. Well, that's a rather small school. I'll find you 50 kids that are on the verge of dropping out. Does that mean that Cartersville High School is a bad school? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that Cartersville High School doesn't work for those 50 kids. So instead of having a system that says, you must go to Cartersville High School, it's a great school, if it's not working for you, too bad, why don't we have a system that says, you can go to Cartersville High School, but if it's not working for you, you can go to a different school. And then we've solved the problem for everybody. And I trust the parents are going to make that decision better than the government, who, by the way, our current system, by the way, again, is sending children to school based on the United States postal mailing addresses. That's how we do it now, which is lunacy. But the second, the heart of your question was test scores. Now, what they're doing is they're comparing, to use the bad analogy, apples to oranges. Most of the schools in the state of Georgia that are considered charter schools are schools that are created by the local district. So think about this for a second. Is the local district going to take their very best school and turn that into a charter school? Or are they going to take their very worst school and turn it into a charter school? Or they're not going to take the very best school, because that school is already performing. They're going to take the worst schools, and that's what you've seen around the state. These conversion charter schools are typically schools that have not been performing well. Chamblee High School was dismal. I don't even know why it was still open. They turned that into a magnet charter conversion, whatever they want to call it, and now it's a good school, it's got a specific purpose. So you can't take a school that is doing very poor, which probably has some serious problems with demographic, socioeconomic factors, high poverty rates, a lot of single-parent families, and then take the results of that school and compare it to the rest of the state and think that's an apt comparison, because it's not. A better way to look at this are to take the schools, particularly the state startup charter schools, and compare them to the school systems from which they draw. In other words, let's take Ivy Prep in Gwinnett County and compare it to all the schools from where it drew its children. That's a fair comparison, right? If you do that, and you look at those comparisons, you will find that the state chartered independent schools are significantly better than the schools from where the children came from, which is a proper comparison between the two. So if you use their numbers the right way, they'll prove our case. But at the end of the day, I'm not worried about some government comparison. I'm worried about a parent determining whether school A or school B works better for their child.
Rich, let me add one of the questions from the audience as we're on this discussion about performance. Are the education management companies paid by performance? In other words, if they don't perform, then they lose their contract, as I understand. And if that's the case, and maybe Tony may want to answer this, are they likely to kick out the children that are poor performers?
Well, to answer your question, the education management company, yes, is paid by performance. If you're not serving the board, then you will get fired. And it's a very quick process. The board is in charge of the operations of the school. They contract those services to the management company to perform certain tasks. If the board decides those tasks are not being performed, then the board can make the decision to replace that management company with another. With regard to the kids, they're not in the position, that's not the role of the management company to screen kids. It is the role of the management company to serve the kids that the board has given the direction to serve. That is how the process is done.
We've seen charter schools that were not doing very well, and you got to always remember when we talk about a management company, they are contractors. They don't own the school. The people of Georgia own the schools, they're public schools, and they have an independent board of people like Christine on the board to oversee it, and they're responsible to make sure that everybody in the school, whether it's the management company or the principal or anybody else, does their job. So I've seen several cases where management companies were fired because they didn't do the things that they needed to do for the students to succeed. And that must be a scary thing for some traditional public school districts. How would you like that, you know? You bring in the superintendent and you say, you know, our board at our school has decided we're not doing very well, so you are fired. And we're going to get somebody who can help us. That's a scary thought. It's accountability. And people that say, you know, well, it's taking away local control. There is no greater local control than what we've been talking about.
And I just want to add that those decisions to fire the management company were parent-driven. The parents made it clear to the boards, because I have a neighbor and close personal friend who happened to be a member of one of those school staffs. And it was the parents that were coming, telling the board members that we need to talk because this is what's happening and I'm not satisfied. So the whole charter school movement is about giving power to parents. And I don't want, just like Senator Rogers said, I don't want any bureaucrat, some government employee telling me what's best for my child. I and my neighbors know that way better than anybody in this state.
Dr. Reese, the next